What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm back with, I can't even remember, I think it's part 12 of the marathon series titled What It's Really Like to Be Homeless. I am producing this content because the content that I shot earlier today is still not approved by the YouTube gods. For those of you who are watching this video and or have been following my channel for a long time, if you see content suddenly pop up in the members only section that seems like it's part of the usual free content on this channel, that's how you know that it has not been approved it has not been approved for monetization yet. So as soon as it gets approved, it will move out of members only into the free pot where everyone else can view it. So I'm not trying to hustle anybody into a members subscription. There probably eventually will be members only content there, but it will probably just be content that I can't otherwise get approved. It's just, this is an ongoing joke. So I want to just make that clarification so you guys don't think that I'm trying to fleece you. I really am not. I just, I can't, I mean, I'm at the will and the whim of the YouTube gods to get my content out. So that all being said, where I left you last time, I had basically kind of gotten myself set up in my new home away from home, my new home in the woods, And so what do you do basically after you have been living on the street for weeks on end? I don't know the exact time frame. I would say that this is probably getting into probably end of January by now, give or take. So I had access to the computer room that I mentioned at my brother's apartment. And because I was living basically immediately adjacent to my brother's apartment, I also had access to his apartment, which gave me access to phones. And so what do you do when you're a drug addict who's just finally gotten themselves up on their own 2 feet, kind of again? What you do is you reach out to your old drug dealer, which is what I did. So I got a hold of my buddy Steve, and who I hadn't seen in a while. You know, I'd had another good come down period. And so Steve was like, man, what's going on? Where you been? And, you know, you're not at the suite, and I've been looking for you. And so he said, let me come get you, and let's run together. So, of course, I said, come on. I think my brother may have taken me to his house. Hell, I may have ridden the bus, because now I was mobile. I was all over DFW. It's in fact possible, again, like I said, my memory is not 100% on this. Steve and I ended up hooking up a number of times during this homeless period. It's possible that I rode the bus over to his parents' house where he used to hang out a lot, and just fucking walked up on dude and was like, what's up, dude? What's going on? So Steve and I went on another little run. This was getting later on into Angie's pregnancy. And so obviously the pregnancy hormones are flowing, and it can be a bit of a hostile environment around the house. And so he's looking for a break regularly. I imagine that the pregnancy hormones mixed with the 3 to 5 G's of crystal that she was doing on a daily basis probably made things pretty volatile at the home space. I think it was about this time that he had, his parents had helped him get out of this old beater car that he used to have. I told you he was driving around this white hatchback, and he had upgraded to a not new, but much newer Volkswagen Passat. And so we set out on the town, making the rounds, and doing all of the usual. There's no reason to keep beating this point to death. It'll only increase the likelihood of this video not being able to go straight up. But we're going to the range. We're going to see clients. At this point, like I said, you know, it hadn't been like a long time since I seen dude, and so it was kind of just like a reunion tour. Every time we would get together, I would run around seeing all these clients that I had you know, come to know, and they had come to know me, and we had a lot of our of like popular hangout spots that we would frequent. And one of those hangout spots was a girl named Lauren. She was actually an adult dancer, and she had a lot of adult dancer friends and she had kind of become one of his acolytes. So obviously in exchange for something, I suspect, he had kind of put her onto the game. So she's doing a little dancing and she's doing a little slinging, a little dealing on the side, because again, like I said, my buddy Steve was right next to the source in Mexico. I'm trying to, I'm trying to be PC as I can with all this, so that's why I seem less than genuine, because I'm trying to get this content to you as soon as possible. So he had pure product, and so this made it very easy for somebody to kind of set up underneath him. Somebody who wanted to step on it a little bit or a lot could very easily make really good money, because this shit was absolute jet fuel. And this is one of the things that caused me no end of problems. Is it was too damn good. I couldn't cope, man. Like I've said in multiple videos in the past, I couldn't cope, and I wouldn't eat, and I would stay up constantly, and I would just end up a basket case of psychosis and paranoia. And so but that's, so dude, like, it was weird because dude was like good enough that he wouldn't just let me keep going indefinitely until I spiraled into oblivion. But he also wasn't, what is he going to do? He can't make me eat, like he would try to make me eat. He liked running with me, I liked running with him. His clients all liked me. It was just a good setup, and what I'm finding out more and more now is a really good setup for this guy, because he had a running partner that was basically costing him nothing. He probably should have been peeling me off a lot more than just supplying my habit and getting to have some fun at the range and do some different things. And so he asked me where I've been staying, and I told him, and he's like, "Damn, dude, like really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's like whatever, like I've just never been the kind of person to have any shame in my game." And he, I'm not his fucking responsibility. So we ran for a while, I don't know, a week or two, and things kind of came to a head, as they typically do. I remember we were at this girl Lauren's apartment one night, and I overamped like a lot. And I had been using for a while, and I just remember suddenly feeling really, really bad. It's kind of hard to explain exactly what I was feeling. It's probably a combination of panic, just massively rapid pulse. Like I got too fucked up. I got too high. When I was living with Nick and I had access to the bar, usually this didn't get too out of control, because I could just run down to the bar and start having a couple of drinks and kind of, bring myself down. And running with Steve, he didn't do that. And I overamped to the point where I kind of wigged out, and it was him and Lauren and this other girl, and they were all kind of sitting, laying around in the living room, twisting the bubble and bullshitting or whatever. And I went in the bathroom trying to get a grip, and I guess I had like a panic attack. I think it's probably what it was. It was probably a combination of things, but to the best of my memory, I was in the bathroom for quite a while. And I was feeling real foggy headed, and like my thoughts wouldn't really hook up. And I was sitting I remember sitting like on the toilet, but like with the lid down. And I had this. I just kept like I just felt I had this feeling of like impending doom. Yeah, I guess is the best way to describe it. And suddenly, I don't know what this was. I'm not claiming that it was a stroke. I don't know what it was. But suddenly I kind of went like that, and like the left side of my body seized up. And I don't remember it affecting my leg. I just remember it being like half my face and my arm, and it's just kind of like a weird like twinge. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm about to die. Like I'm about to die in this fucking bathroom. And I'm sure that contributed to the panic. And so I just started spiraling even worse, and I just felt terrible. There's no way to really quantify. I just felt like impending doom. I felt terrible. I was nervous. I'm sure I had like, cold sweats. And the thing that sticks out in my memory is I remember sitting on that toilet lid, and I actually talked to God. And I was like, I said like, either God, like, please, like, either make this go away or take me right now. Either one, I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Make it stop, or take me right now. I can't take any more of this feeling. And it wasn't long after that one of the girls knocked on the door, and she was like, dude, are you okay? You've been in there for a long time. And I just kind of finally, like, I was too embarrassed, I guess, to say anything. I didn't want to, like, freak Steve out, and I wasn't trying to be like a downer on the party. I didn't know what to do. I was in there having, I guess, a panic attack and maybe a mini stroke. I don't know what the fuck happened to me. I just know that I massively overamped, and I told her, no, I'm not okay. And she's like, let me in. And I got up and I came to the door, and they're like, what, he had me come out in the living room, and they're like, what's going on? And I started telling them what I was going through, and Lauren, she goes, oh fuck, he overamped. And this is a crazy thing. Like, here I am with these two strippers and my dealer, and I'll never forget, she reached over and she put her hand on my shoulder, and she's like, baby, I got you. It's gonna be okay. And she went into her bedroom, and she came out with what looked like a fishing tackle box. It was like a tray that had all these like little dividers inside it. And this box was full of more pills than I have ever seen in my lifetime. You know that scene in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas where Johnny Depp is in the back of the car and he's describing his drug collection, and he says, I've got a whole multicolored galaxy of uppers, downers, screamers, laughers. That's, every time I see that movie, I think of this little box that she had, because that's exactly what it was. It was this whole multicolored galaxy of pills and capsules and all this shit. And she reaches into this box and she comes out with this little white rectangular pill, and she goes, baby, you overamped, and this is gonna make you feel better. And I said, what is it? And she says, Xanax. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I took the Xanax, and in 30 minutes tops, probably 15, oh my God, that fucking relief just washed over me. And I sat out there with them and chilled, and we ended up having this fucking really great night. And it was this weird thing, it was like strangely bonding, because like here you are feeling like you're about to die, and you think you're dying, and then suddenly this stranger just like eases your pain, like she just took it away, and it was fucking amazing. And so the fucked up part though was that, like, luckily they rolled with it, like they got it. It was just that I overamped, and she had a solution, and everything was cool. And so me and Steve go to leave, and we get downstairs in the car, and he's kind of pissed off. And he goes, dude, like, what the fuck just happened? And I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, why didn't you come get me? And I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to be like a burden on you. And he was like, what if, I was like, what are you gonna do anyway? And he's like, man, we could take you to the hospital. And I'm like, hospital? And he's like, yeah, dude, like, I don't want to see something bad happen to you. Like, you can't just fucking, stroke out in somebody's fucking bathroom, dude. Like, you gotta fucking let me know what's going on. And I said, dude, I'm not trying to get you, don't take me to a fucking hospital. If I OD, whatever you do not fucking get yourself in trouble over my stupid addiction. And he goes, well, what the fuck am I supposed to do with you? And I said, I don't know, just put my body in a trash bag and get rid of it. And the look on this guy's fucking face when I said that, he looked at me like I must have been from another planet. He said, get rid of it. And I'm just like, yeah, dude, just like fucking, like, don't fuck your shit up over me. Like, what, who am I? Like, if I overamp and die, like, just, I don't know, bag me up and fucking throw me in the dumpster somewhere. And like this, he just, like, I think he's, like, every one of these experiences he's having with me, he's realizing, this guy's fucking gone, man. Like, this guy really does not give a fuck at all. And it was just like he was disgusted with me. He couldn't fucking believe. He's like, dude, we don't do shit like that to our friends. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, and so, lo and behold, not long after that, he was dropping me off again. And so it was just like, this guy and I had this great relationship. I had so much fun running with him, but the drugs just made me so disconnected from reality. Like the second, and honestly, this is what I said in the video that hasn't come out yet. The closest I've ever felt to this is what I'm going through right now on this mint. Like, I feel so content with my life right now that I don't want to eat, I don't want to sleep, I don't have any interest in sex, I don't care about playing video games. Like, I just feel totally content. And the only time I have ever felt that way in life was when my dopamine receptors were just saturated with the crystal. It made me just, I didn't care about money. I didn't care about girls. I didn't care about food. I didn't care about having a car or a place to live, or I didn't care about anything but that feeling, dude. That's all I cared about. It was just enough. And so I never wanted it to end, but every time, like, dude would be kind of forced to fucking drop me off, like, it would be necessary, because the reality is that when you stay up for weeks on end and you don't eat and you don't sleep, you get to a point where you're not really getting high anymore. You're just staying alive. You're just staying awake. And so as much as I never wanted the party to come to an end, I knew that I needed a break, because then the next time we got together again, I would actually be able to enjoy it, because I would be cleaned out and, you know, caloried back up. And so basically over the course of the rest of this time that I was homeless, up until something major that's gonna happen in an upcoming episode, we just went through these little cyclical, I would run with this guy for a week or two, he would drop me off for a week or two, and I would clean up and calorie up and get healthy again, and go back to living on the streets, and then we'd hook up again and we'd run a little bit longer. And so he basically takes me to this parking lot that's in this, like I told you, like I was living in this wooded area by where my brother's apartments are, and there's like this little parking lot, because it's kind of like it's like a park. It's just like a grass, like a green belt kind of area. There's no like playground or anything, but it's like where you take your dog to throw a frisbee or fly kites, shit like that. And so I'm like, yeah, just pull in right here. And he reaches into this bag and he's like, you're living in here? And I'm like, yeah, it's cool, man. Like, it's cool. Like, don't even trip. And he's like, all right, whatever. And he reaches into this little bag and he comes out with this little pistol. And it was a little 25. I didn't even know such a thing had existed. And he hands me this little thing. He's like, dude, like, I feel like I gotta at least give you something. Like, you're living in a fucking tent in the woods. And so dude hands me this, like, I think it wasn't like a revolver. It was like this little black pistol that had a little clip in it, and it had 25 caliber bullets. I'm like 99.9% certain. It was just like this little tiny little thing. And it was enough, you know, it was just like, I had like, it was better than nothing, you know, like it's a gun. And it was teeny tiny and I carried it everywhere I went. And so I took my new little 25, and he gave me some rounds for it. And I went in the woods and fired it a couple times to see what it was like. And then I made my way down to my tent. And so there was basically 2 entrance points to get to this tent. So you've got like this, imagine like this, like, okay, like if my screen, if you've got a park right here, okay, then my brother's apartments are like down here in the lower corner, okay? So my brother's apartments are down here, and there's this little park that's right here. And so right along here, you can walk on this trail into the woods that goes along like this, and it reaches this crossroads, and then you can come down like this, and you reach a property line that's got a whole bunch of big, huge boulders that you can't get past, because people would try to drive their cars back in there and party in the middle of the night. And this landowner put all these big, huge boulders where they couldn't drive onto his land. And so you come down to this little T intersection of these boulders, and you would follow a trail like this, and then it would bend along a river, like a little creek channel, and you come down here like this, and my tent was basically right over here. Right here would be on this little map that I have now drawn on your screen. This is basically where my tent would be, and this whole section over here in this corner of the screen here would be this guy's property. So there was a barbed wire fence that ran right behind my tent, up like this, and then right at a 90-degree angle. And somebody owned this property right here. There was never anybody on it. And so I was in what was technically city land on the outside of this guy's property right here, and I had little trails that would go from my tent that would kind of come down and over to my brother's apartment, and trails that went up like this out so that I could go up to the bus stop. So the bus stop would be up this way, and another parking lot where there was a gas station and a Kroger was down this way. So that's kind of like a map for you of the terrain. So I walk in this trail, and of course I have just gotten everything set up. I've got my tent, I've got my Deaf Dog Inside sign, I've got all my goods, and now what I've done, like a complete total idiot, is I've abandoned it for at least a week. I don't know if it was a week or 2 weeks, but I have now abandoned this, so I have no idea if I'm even gonna have a place to live anymore. So all of this money, which is not a lot, admittedly, that I had invested and built into this living space, I had just risked by running off with him for fucking 2 weeks, running around getting high and slinging and doing our thing. And so half of me is expecting, this is how effed I was, dude. Like my brain is just not, all I cared about was getting high. And so lo and behold, I come approaching, and I'm expecting it to be torn down, everything to be scattered everywhere. I had most of my stuff on me because I carried that big backpack, so I put my clothes and shit because I knew we were gonna be running together for a while. So worst case scenario, I was gonna lose my Sterno stove, some gallons of water. I probably had some ramen noodles down there, my sleeping bag. I had most of the stuff because I was gonna be running with him for a couple weeks, but I could have lost some of it. And I kind of fully expected the shit to be gone or torn apart. And when I got back down there, lo and behold, everything was right the way I left it. There was no sign that anybody had laid a finger or been anywhere near it. Which, in hindsight, I'm not sure exactly what a person would think psychologically if they went on a little afternoon Sunday stroll through the nearby Greenbelt and happened upon a fucking fort with a tent and a latrine dug outside of it. Like, this is clearly not some fucking kids playing. This place had the look of something out of like a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre or some crazy ass movie. It was basically short of everything but like skulls hanging from posts outside of the doorway. And so I was good. Lo and behold, everything was good. And so now what's about to happen is I'm gonna go in this tent and crash the fuck out for probably a couple of days because I've been running for a couple of weeks. And so I'm, again, timeline, not ideal. I don't know whether I had him stop me by a store or whether I walked there myself, but typically what I would do when I was coming down off Crystal is I would stock up on Starburst, Skittles, Snickers, and Gatorades or some kind of fluids, because when you've been up for 2 weeks and you come down, you will sleep for a day or two minimum. Usually 2 days, about pretty much solid, you're gonna sleep. And so what would happen is when I would crash out, I would sleep for some unknowable period of time. Maybe it was 6 hours, maybe it was 8 hours. And I would wake up, and as the drugs were clearing my system, my body would be so emaciated and deteriorated. I had basically been running on the crystal. That was what was animating my otherwise lifeless body. And so when the crystal is gone and you have had no calories for 2 weeks and no sleep, you are totally devastated. And so I would wake up in the tent after, some unknowable number of hours, and sometimes I barely had the energy to even sit completely up. So like I would lean up, and I had what they call a gear locker, which is just like a little pouch hanging on the side of the tent, and I would reach into there and I would get like Starburst or a Snickers or something, and I can't tell you the number of times that like I would be halfway through a Snickers and I would nod out and wake up, some number of hours later covered in chocolate or Skittles all over the place, or have Starburst sticking to the side of my face because they'd been in my, laying on the ground and I'd rolled around in them. And so like usually the first time you wake up after weeks of being awake, you can barely move. And so I would get some kind of calories in, and then I would wake up and I would be ambulatory enough to get outside and go urinate, come back in, finish a Snickers, drink some fluids, get as much food as I could get, and then you just crash. I mean, you just cannot stay awake. You just nod out again. And then again, you wake up, and every time you wake up, you're like coming. It's like refueling a vampire. Like you slowly come back to life. And so I'm eating these calories, and then eventually you get up. Maybe you make a ramen noodle soup or something. But it takes a couple of days, a minimum, to recover from that kind of abuse of your body. And so once you come out of it, more or less the drugs are gone, and like this is kind of my thing. I know what it is, and so it's just back to business as usual. And so it's just like nothing. It's like you didn't miss a day. So it's back to panhandling, riding the buses, going here, going there. And now that I had my little home set up and I got my little pistol and I'm feeling better about things, I started collecting. I started going to bookstores and getting things to read, and it's getting a little bit more. The nights are getting a little bit warmer, so like this is probably getting into. I said January earlier. It was probably into February. My time again. It's hard to keep track of the time. I think after Steve gave me that little 25 is when we were starting to get into spring, and so with the arrival of spring comes a whole new set of hurdles that you haven't been experiencing. So with the arrival of spring, there's two things that occur. One, bugs. Fucking bugs. I've been living down there in the cold of winter. There's no leaves on the trees, or a few leaves, so like I've had to build my fort with what little evergreens that I can find, or really close sticks. And so you're starting to get more leaves on the trees, which makes it harder to see into the distance to scout what's going on in this area you're in. But the other thing is fucking spiders are coming out from everywhere. So you're walking. I used to be able to walk the trails in the middle of the night with no headlight, no lamp, because my eyes would adjust to the darkness and I could see perfectly good in the woods at night. And I like to stay incognito because people would come down there in the middle of the night to drink or party or do whatever. And so if you're walking around in the woods in the middle of the night and you have a flashlight, you'll notice that you can see whatever's on the ground that's being illuminated by this beam, but it fucks your pupils up. You can't see shit outside of your little beam. It's pitch black. Well, it didn't take me long to living in the woods to figure out that's not a good condition. You're basically blind. So I learned to walk the woods at night with no headlamp or no light at all. And your eyes adjust and you can see perfectly fine. It's not pitch black. And you can see actually a lot further into the area around you when your pupils are dilated real big and they're not being affected by artificial light. So if other people are down there in the woods, they typically have flashlights and headlamps. And so you can see them, but they can't see you. And that's a massive advantage when you're living off the land and you're trying to keep it secret. And so I was used to walking the trails at night with nothing to illuminate my pathway. And now all of a sudden I'm down there walking the trails and I'm fucking walking through gobs of spider webs. These motherfuckers are crawling on me. And then it creates a new thing that you have to adapt to. And so like I said, anytime I was walking around in the woods, I cut off this stick that's about that big around, and I had like a point on one end that I kind of used as a walking stick, and or like to fend off an animal. This is before I had my little 25. It's the only thing I had. You never know, a dog, a person, you have some kind of protection. And so this thing was about up to shoulder height on me, and so I had something to defend myself if push came to shove. And so I learned that when you're walking the trails at night in the spring, you have to use your walking stick and you just constantly do like this. The whole time you're walking the trails, you're clearing the way in front of you with this stick, or you will just be covered in spiders. You cannot imagine. And these motherfuckers just spin their webs right across your trail. Some of them are gigantic. The first time I walked, I'm walking with no light. but you can see in front of your face. But you can't see like in high resolution for a distance. And I walked up on one of those, you know, those big gnarly, like yellow and black ones that have like the fucking the long ass stick, like pointy looking legs. That son of a bitch was right in my face. I almost walked right into it. And that will run a chill up your spine quickly. So I got real good at walking through the woods, learning to clear the path ahead of me so that you can walk into all kinds of shit. And so I recovered from my most recent bender, and I guess it was about this time probably, because I remember it was still chilly but getting better. I don't know why this day sticks out in memory so much, but it does. I was not having, my faith in God had really deteriorated during this experience on the street. And not that I had ever had one very strong before, but when you're kind of abandoned by everyone in your life and you're going through this experience that's rather transformative, the last thing you feel is oneness with some deity that gives two shits about your existence. And so I came across this author named Sam Harris, who wrote a book called The End of Faith. I don't know how I came across this. I don't know what led me to this particular book or why or how, but I can remember I had gone to the bookstore. There's like, Barnes & Noble was over in North Dallas on one of my panhandling routes. And so again, when I was out making money, you know, I could work a red light and sometimes make $20 an hour. But I would also just panhandle parking lots, and I don't know if it was this particular day. It doesn't really matter. But another thing that I haven't mentioned thus far in the story is that one of the reasons that I wasn't working, one of the reasons that I ended up homeless to begin with, is that back then in 2001, I was not the easiest person to employ. Because I had, during my last relationship, decided to go out and get a whole face full of piercings. So I had an eyebrow ring, I had rings in both of my ears, I had my nose pierced through my septum right here with like the bull ring hanging out of it. I had my lip pierced, and I had like a 2-inch spike coming out of my labret. You know, kind of like the Disturbed guy. He had the two ones that curved down. I had one that pointed straight out. So I always kept my face clean shaven, and I kind of had a buzz cut, and I had I think it was like $250 with facial jewelry. I also had my D-game pierced at one point, straight through the bottom of it. Not the Prince Albert. This is called a frenum piercing. Frenum, you can look that up. God damn it. If you've, don't do that. That was one of the most painful fucking things I have ever experienced in my life. I guess I could add that little short story here because I'm telling everything else about my life. I had collected these piercings over some period of time, and the last one I think that I got done was the frenum piercing. And I remember going to the tattoo parlor where I was getting it done, and my brother took me, and one of his friends, they couldn't believe it. They were like, this guy's fucking nuts. He's gone. He's gonna get his D-game pierced. Like, what the fuck is going on? And so I go into this piercing place, and I tell this guy what I want, and the piercing guy, the guy that runs the place, is a dude, but his wife works for him. And he's like, who do you want to do your piercing? And I'm like, her. Obviously, I don't want you touching my dick. And he goes, okay, like, that's fine. I totally understand. I completely get it. She does these all the time. She's very good. But let me just offer you this piece of information. She's very good. She will take care of you. You will be fine. She doesn't have a penis. I do have a penis. I know exactly how they feel and how they work. So you can have her pierce your penis, or I can do it. And I said, yeah, I'm gonna go with you. He's like, good choice. So my brother and his friend are standing in there. I've got my dick out. There's this guy and his wife. They're both gloved up. Why she's gloved up, I don't know, just in case shit goes wrong, I guess. And my brother and his friend are standing there like they're in a, you know, it's like, get the popcorn out. This is gonna be fucked up to watch. I'm laying on this table, and here's this like, he was like a big hefty dude with like a beard, and he's gloved up, and he's got this 12 gauge hollow pointed needle in his hand, and he's got my junk in his other hand. And I'm laying on this table, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and he goes, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." Bang! And he hits me with that fucking needle. And the second he put that needle through my shit, my legs on the table start going like this. Just drumming the fucking shit out of this thing. Out of control. I don't know what caused it. I freaked the fuck out. I thought he hit like, I mean, I don't know what kind of nerve would be in my dick that would be connected to my legs. But in my head in this moment, he has just done something wrong, because my legs are just completely of their own volition, just pounding the shit out of this table. And he kind of gets back like, what the fuck? And I mean, it was real brief, and it stopped. And so everything's good. And my brother and his friend are just like jaws on the floor, like, oh my God, what the fuck did we just watch? And so dude gets like the alcohol or whatever, and he fucking, you know, gets my junk all taken care of. And so he explains obviously the aftercare, you know, what you need to do to take care of this. He explains, you know, you got to twist it so that it doesn't heal, your skin doesn't grow to the barbell, and you know, you got to keep it moving, and you know, all the things. And so it's like, okay, cool, thanks, man. I appreciate you stabbing me in the dick with a needle, and just what I wanted. And so I remember going out and getting my brother's truck, and they were just like fucking blown away. And my brother's like, I know this is like, sounds kind of fucked up, but like let me see it again. And so I'm like, all right. So I pull my shit out, and I look down, and I'm covered in blood. And I was like, oh no, he did do something wrong. And my brother's like, dude, you need to go back in there. And so I go back inside, and I'm like, I'm bleeding kind of a lot. Is that normal? And he kind of looks like a little like, he's like, well, it could be. Let's take a look. And so now I'm having a fucking panic attack, because I'm afraid that he's gone through the I think it's called the cavernosa. There's basically like this tube inside of your junk that fills with blood. That's what makes it operate. And there was not a small amount of blood. And so he looked, and he checked, and he was like, nope, you're good. I did a good job. He was like, you're just a bleeder for whatever reason. So he got it all patched up, and he's like, you're totally good. You know, just keep it clean, take care of it, and you'll be good to go. And so, man, it took 6 months for that to heal. And I cannot tell you how much I would never do that shit again. For at least the first several weeks. What happens is you go to sleep, and in the middle of the night you roll in such a way that yanks that barbell, and it's been like sitting healing, and it yanks it and tweaks that skin, and you will shoot awake real quick when that lightning strikes your D game again. So there's a story you didn't think you were going to get in a homeless video, but that's what it's really like to get your D game pierced. Do not do it. It is not worth it at all. Girls do not care. They cannot feel this. They don't give a shit. This is the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. So, yeah, I don't know why I even got onto that. I fucking know where I'm at in this story. So, oh yeah, End of Faith. Wow, I don't know what the hell that had to do with anything. So, I get this book called The End of Faith by Sam Harris. And you have to understand that living in a tent is a lonely experience. It's a very lonely experience. Being homeless in general is a very lonely experience. In fact, the thing that eventually got me off of the street was not that it was hard to live on the street. The only reason I got off the street is because I could not take the loneliness anymore. I wanted a girl in my life so fucking bad. I was so lonely. I used to think to myself, if I could find a girl to be homeless with, I would never work another day in my fucking life. Like if you could just have a good girl and be homeless together, I'm telling you, I may fuck around and do it. Like if I didn't have kids right now, if we didn't have kids, my wife and I would take that trailer and we would be gone. We would stay on the road permanently. If I had to panhandle my way across America, I'd never work another day in my life. Just being nomadic, living on the street, not having any cares in the world, it is the most freeing fucking experience. You go to bed at night, you wake up to the birds calling in the morning. It was definitively one of the best experiences of my life, minus the catastrophic loneliness. And one of the things that really makes the loneliness worse is when your brother has a girl. And so you go over to your brother's house and it's like him and his 3 buddies are there and they're all with their girls and they're all laid around cuddling, you know, smoking joints and shit. And you're the crazy guy who lives in the woods with your walking stick and your camo all by yourself. And then you have to leave to go back to your tent and all you have is the company of your books. And it's pretty fucking brutal and it leads to a lot of really sad nights. But for some reason, it's just like this one night, man, I was laying in my tent and I'm reading Sam Harris's The End of Faith. And this was like a transcendental moment for me because the way Sam is one of the greatest writers ever. And the way he describes things just spoke to my fucking soul. He just speaks in a way that just resonates with my brain so much. And so I can remember one night, you know, in my sleeping bag, just devouring this book under candlelight or a headlamp, whatever it was, smoking cigarettes and eating candy and drinking Dr. Pepper. And I can remember one night in the tent, enjoying this book with my cigarettes and my sugar, alone in the middle of the woods, in the middle of Dallas, while my entire fucking family is bedded down in their homes with their wives, their husbands, their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their whoever. And in that moment, completely alone in that tent with that book, and I was totally and completely happy. I remember like holding the book in my hand and looking up at the wall of the tent and realizing it really just doesn't take that much in life. I was enjoying this writing so much and there was just this moment that I had that I don't understand what caused it or why, but that moment I can still feel today, 25 years later, just like it happened yesterday. And of all of the amazing things that I have done in my life, I have traveled all of this country. I've seen some of the most beautiful places in the world. I have an amazing wife. I have amazing kids. I've enjoyed a level of luxury in life that very few people get to enjoy. And that fucking night in that tent with that book still stands out as one of the best fucking memories I ever had, and I wouldn't trade it for all the money in the world. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one.